Do you say Kevin Feige or Kevin Feige or Kevin Feige?
I quite like the idea of Kevin Feige. Like beige.
Yeah. Hello, I am Sam.
I'm Ian.
And we welcome you to episode 9 of the Deep Dive 5, a show where we dive into 5 topics regarding the career of a filmmaker and their latest film or TV show. Our first ever Deep Dive 5 about a producer involves the most successful producer in the history of cinema. Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige's latest MCU movie is The Fantastic Four: First Steps, if you ignore the previous 2 attempts to make the Fantastic Four work. Is this the 4th Fantastic Four film overall?
Yeah, because you've got that like made-for-TV movie that was made in the 80s, and then you've got
what do you call
Ewan
them?
Griffith ones that were made, and then you've got the
so this is the
reboot.
5th then.
The Fab Five.
This is the 5th attempt at Fantastic Four, a film about Fantastic Four people.
And Herbie, the robot.
Yes. The film will be released on the 25th of July. Ian, do you believe Kevin Feige gets the respect he deserves? And are you excited for the latest MCU movie?
I think he definitely gets his credit, right? I don't think there's many people. There's a lot of filmmakers, for instance, where when you start to put out not so great stuff, they get a lot thrown at them. But I think Feige's managed to kind of sidestep that a little bit. He's still the head of the MCU. I think people still have faith in what he might do.
I think it's kind of more his impact on cinema as a whole. I think he's probably in many ways taken like the George Lucas model and it's just like exploded. Because a lot of people think of Star Wars and they think of Spielberg's like Indiana Jones as like proper like B-movie entertainment. But a lot of people at the time said like this is like the end of like proper cinema, like classic dramas and stuff like that. And I feel like with Kevin Feige's contribution to superhero films, it has kind of completely changed Hollywood's pursuit of money. So I suppose it's does he deserve the respect of his peers, or do people just see him as like running this kind of like, as Scorsese would call it, like a theme park machine?
Mm-hmm. Is that a question?
Yeah. Yeah, not so much the recent decline in quality, which we'll go into with the MCU, but just like, do you think that he gets the respect that other like iconic producers can get?
I think both can be true, because there's an element of, well, you've actually managed to take something which up until this point has been a laughingstock of cinema.
Yes.
And you've made it the main cinema. You've made it the main money spinner. Where obviously people aren't going to appreciate him is the fact that he's completely changed the business model.
Yes.
And for probably a good decade and a half now, people are still chasing franchises. Franchises are still a thing. You don't hear many films that get announced without, this is a planned trilogy, or this is a planned quadrilogy. And you couldn't believe how many spin-offs we can get from this. Everything's kind of breadcrumbed in that sense, particularly when you've got worlds and lore and all of that lot. And that can be said for TV shows. So there's definitely an argument for both in this instance, where it's like, on one hand, you can't not recognise his additions to the movie landscape and what he's managed to do, get people behind characters and comic books, like kind of reboot mediums in a way. Comics kicked off after this again. Like they became a mainstay of almost every form of media. I mean, they're now worlds in theme parks and things like that. So, like, you cannot deny his impact on cinema, both positively and negatively. I think the negative of that is he created a structure. He created the franchise, you know? He created franchises as we know it.
Yeah, he made franchises. This is going to your point about it being a positive and negative. He creates franchises that have no end point.
He's literally made the end point. He made Endgame.
Well, no, because then it carried on, and it should really have ended specifically there, and that is a big problem in Hollywood now, where they just don't end things properly, and it feels like it never will fully conclude because it's too vital to like keeping like the oxygen flowing in Hollywood.
So I do somewhat disagree with that standpoint, because I think to myself they should have had more of a plan of what they wanted to do after. And I think that plan was disrupted by COVID. I think that then the plan and the movement to like streaming services and all that stuff kind of hindered it. But I do think there would have been a really interesting way to pivot away from this massive franchise that all leads to Endgame, which thankfully did pay off for them. There's then a way to peel things off of that. You don't need to recreate that. But what you can do is you can make trilogies, quadrilogies, duologies. You could have then done the X-Men within that world. You could have done spin-off Spider-Man films that would have then told smaller crossovers or brought in villains that overlap, that then allowed for different franchises to overlap. Then you could have done an Avengers film every here and then, but they didn't necessarily have to lead to an Avengers film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could have. I think they could have gone off and done that. And I know there was echoes of that, 2015, 2016, where they were like, no, there's space for us to tell smaller stories. Like after Endgame, it was almost like a pressure valve had been released, and they were like, well, we can actually play around and we can experiment a little bit, and we can bring in wider parts of the MCU which perhaps don't quite work as part of the larger narrative, but we can kind of tell those stories. But they've just not managed to do it yet. I think, weirdly, like Phase 4 was obviously tied up at the same time that they were looking at TV shows. I think that's a whole mess. I think that's a whole podcast in itself. But like in a nutshell, I think it's an element of Disney told Feige he's got to pivot. He's got to start looking at TV shows. He spread way too thin. He puts too much trust in filmmakers, which had previously done really well, but under the constraints of Feige. Yeah, under Feige. And his guiding hand has then allowed excellent filmmakers to produce excellent things. I think then what happened is he just trusted them, couldn't put as much time and effort into these projects as perhaps he would have done beforehand. They've gone off and made things with full creative control, and it's kind of lost its way that even to tell mini-stories and micro-stories within the broader world of post-Endgame and all of that lot, it's kind of hard to do. And I think they need to pick up the pieces now. Like they're putting a lot of weight behind Fantastic Four. And I wonder if that's because as they started moving away from the streaming service models and that again, this might be the first one that hasn't got the echoes of that. Like it was almost back to what we were doing before.
Yeah, it's a complete clean slate because obviously, as far as I'm aware, it takes place in a different reality.
Well, I don't know.
So it's completely
no
fresh.
idea.
Everything is fresh.
If there's a theory around it, I would say you're going to have these characters introduced, because the argument would be, well, if the Fantastic Four were there, then why didn't they didn't take place in Endgame? So the theory, or the working theory, I suppose, at the moment is where they had all the alternate realities at Endgame, when Thanos comes through that portal, he's left almost like echo portals, or perhaps like Galactus, who is kind of similar to Thanos in that he's an Eternal and all of that lot. Perhaps he's unlocked the same way to create portals, or he ends up with some of the stones or something like that. And I think because Galactus is such a huge bad guy, you wouldn't just want to lose him. So I wonder if the argument is Galactus in this, he ultimately wins, but what happens is Fantastic Four, when they're in space, goes through a portal and end up in our current MCU verse, when they've had the snap and all things like that. So you've got two worlds collide. You've got different heroes from a different universe coming into a world then where Reed Richards as a genius then has to relearn everything, even down to things like different physics, different science, and then he's obviously going to then pick up a mantle where he's not famous, because in this they're like a huge deal. The Fantastic Four are like a massive famous family. They take care of the world and all stuff like that. But I wonder what that's going to be like then when you take that attitude and you inject it into a world that's had the snap and all of that, and superheroes are, conflicted with the Accord trials and all things like that. It's going to be a massive juxtaposition, and they're going to have to learn what it's like then to live in that world. I would see that because it's the only way that you can bridge the gap of this is the Fantastic Four. They should have been probably part of Endgame and part of those bigger plans, but obviously rights don't allow for it. But we still want those characters to meet, our Tom Holland Spider-Man, and we still want them to meet our Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange and stuff like that. Like, they want those worlds to collide. And to be honest, it's really the only way that you can get a Downey Jr. Doctor Doom, is if it's a different universe Doctor Doom bridging the gap. and being able to just kind of come through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does feel like the tide is turning and they're getting over their rough patch. Because
Well,
Thunderbolts did well, and this, as far as we're aware at the time of recording, it's got positive reviews.
yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding. I think there's like, I don't think, don't get me wrong, this isn't like Black Panther. You know, it's not Endgame. It's nothing like that. Like I think you have to go in there with expectations that this is, you know, go in there thinking this is Captain America,
Yeah.
or go in there thinking this is Thor. You know, this is one of those type of movies. It's not like, oh yeah, you're going in there to see this like massive movie. I actually read one of the headlines to one of the reviews before we came out, and I can't remember who it's from. But they basically said, and I thought it was an odd comment. It basically said that Fantastic Four exists in a world in which audiences are demanding more things from their superhero movies and at a greater scale. And this includes things like interstellar combat. And I was like, no, I don't think that is what people are wanting. Like, I think you've read your audience wrong. Like, I don't think it all exists within good movies. Like, that's how things like Black Widow as a movie exists. Like, it exists in that world because it justifies itself. Like, the story isn't these intergalactic struggles and things like that. It doesn't need to be, but it can tell a bit more of a concise story that's still relevant to that world. You don't have to go interstellar all the time. Thunderbolts isn't really like that either. Like, Sentry is a pretty decent villain, but they don't go out of their way to be like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's just like this happens on a very contained block in like New York, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's wiping out half of a country or something like that. So I don't know. I don't quite I'm kind of in two minds with it. Or I'm just a bit like, this does feel like they're turning a corner, but I hope it's because they're starting to focus on the right things again. And I don't think it needs to be, as that review said, like on a grand scale, interstellar, you know, whatnot. But as long as it's just a good story.
I think it's always, again, we've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but when a film series or a franchise is like 40 films in or whatever crazy number it is, it's very hard to like judge where it needs to go like overall to sort of keep the momentum high, because it's just it has been going through an identity crisis since Endgame, and I think because of the streaming issues and obviously COVID, I think they're starting to get back on track.
Starting to recognise that film is a film
want.
and a TV show is a TV show. Like, Feige even turned around. He was doing some interviews the other day, and they asked him why some of his franchises, from the recent franchises, have just made no money. And he was very candid. He basically turned around and said, because they're TV characters. Like, we didn't introduce them as movie characters. We introduced them as TV characters, and people didn't watch the TV shows.
Yeah.
So by the time it came to movies, you can't re-establish them because your TV audiences who are going to these movies are, you know, they already know these characters. They've already watched 8 to 10 episodes with them in. But your film audiences, which we can recognise now are very different audiences, don't have that point of reference. So you end up with this like weird kind of grey space. And I kind of agreed with that. I mean, obviously I'm just kind of taking his words and reproducing them for the sake of this conversation. But yeah, like I kind of believe in that context where it's just a bit like, yeah, you kind of need to focus on these characters as movie characters, introduce them as movie characters, give them movie stakes. You can tell spin-offs, but you need to ultimately introduce them on the big screen first. And then if you wanted to tell those stories, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, for instance, is a really good, take your B-class characters, your C-class characters, and give them a spin-off. But they're also characters now that don't necessarily work for the big screen.
Yeah, they have like. Well, I mean, you want you want to follow your character's journey, and if they've been sort of, I don't want to say the word muddled in TV, you sort of lose your place with it, and because you lose your place, you lose interest.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably why the Marvels didn't do too well.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the common complaint. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, weirdly, not to go into like Superman too much, but Superman, the first act kind of has the same issue, where you're just sort of like thrown in and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And I think recent Marvel films have had that issue.
Definitely.
But I'm excited because, I enjoyed Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four as a story kind of has like a weird nostalgia, because it was one of those sort of big... When would you say like the superhero era began in earnest?
X-Men.
I just feel like 2008. That was when it.
2008 is when
that's
the
when it
Marvel stuff.
That's when
kicked
it.
off.
Yeah, but also the Dark Knight. I think superhero films
true.
kind of found its footing after what Blade to Iron Man's like 10 years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of hits and misses.
Lots of hits and misses, but
Which
then
Kevin Feige,
the hits are good.
which we'll talk about
Kevin
later.
Feige's literally
Kevin
involved in all
Feige's
of them,
involved
so-
in like almost the entire journey.
Yeah.
But
Do you want to do a bit of his backstory?
yes,
then?
I would love to. Born in Boston and later growing up in New Jersey. Do you like my New Jersey accent?
It's fantastic.
Thank you. I'll try.
4.
Okay. Kevin
You
Feige.
you didn't get it, did you?
Sorry,
I said, yeah, it was fantastic. 4.
I thought you called me a fool. I thought you called me a fool.
I didn't call you a fool. No, I said fantastic. Oh,
Anyway.
just keep going.
Yeah. He grew up idolising the directors George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis, and Ron Howard. He would soon follow in their footsteps by attending the University of Southern California, which began his journey into the film business. Kevin Feige's impressive knowledge of Marvel Comics helped him gain a job as associate producer on the first X-Men film in 2000. Can you believe that came out 25 years ago? That is the most strange feeling ever.
Still a good movie.
Elements have not aged well, but overall it's still like good fun.
Yeah.
He was soon promoted to producer at Marvel Studios and helped propel Marvel to new heights, beginning with Iron Man in 2008, which began the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU as the kids like to call it. The MCU, which is entirely produced by Feige, has largely dominated Hollywood over the last 15 years and has grossed around $31 billion.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's more than my dad made in his lifetime, making Feige the highest grossing producer in history. Feige is also an Oscar-nominated producer after Black Panther's nomination, for Best Picture in 2018. Since Avengers Endgame, which is the highest-grossing MCU film to date, Feige and the MCU has faced criticism for a decline in quality and the question if the public are fatigued by superhero films. Now, this is an age-old question that's been mentioned many times, but do you think there's superhero fatigue, or do you just think people want good films?
I think it's good films and good stories, to be honest.
Yeah.
It feels I can subscribe to the idea of superhero fatigue, but that doesn't stop a good film.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean to say that if you can't blame a bad movie with a poor script on superhero fatigue. You can potentially see that people aren't prepared or have the patience for bad movies, particularly if they're the first film in a franchise. You cannot use that excuse of superhero fatigue make a bad box office income. It's just not something that I don't really subscribe to it, to be honest. I do get that people would be bored of it and that there is kind of a waning interest in these things, but so is film, right?
Yeah,
the horror genre does exactly the same thing.
I was about
It
to
ebbs and
say that,
flows.
yeah.
Every genre has interesting moments and it has boring moments.
Yeah.
And this is just going through a bit of a knock.
Yeah, I mean, horror and comedy and drama and thrillers, they have been around. They've been a staple of Hollywood for like 100 years, and people still go back to them if they're good.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they're fresh and new. That's why like Get Out was amazing, because it was like a new take on horror.
Yeah.
And people buy into interesting ideas. But with Kevin Feige, overall, I mean, he has got one of those stories that is kind of almost like a dream in itself. Like, can you imagine when he's like, I don't know, 10 or 15?
Yeah.
And everything within superhero, obviously, is down to the Superman films and mostly comics and probably very low budget films or TV shows. And then he basically becomes like the guy that runs the whole show.
Yeah.
And it's because he's got like this like sound knowledge of it. It's like, it's like one of those like dream jobs, I suppose.
Yeah.
And he's always struck me in the interviews that I've watched that he hasn't really changed at all.
No, he's
like,
always been quite candid with
he's always very chill and just like, I think he just lets his job do the talking.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really make it so much about himself.
Well, this is what we mentioned beforehand. Like he was very candid by the idea of like it's all about how you introduce the characters.
Yeah.
It's all about where they come into it, which possibly even says to me what he was trying to fight for. Particularly during COVID and stuff. Like there was arguments for like, please don't introduce this character like in TV, and that's why a lot of the TV stuff ended up being quite obscure characters, because it was like, I wonder if he was really protecting. He was being like, you are not making Fantastic Four a TV show. Like, you're just not doing it. I wonder if he kind of really held that back and was just like, no, they're a movie. X-Men are a movie. Like, we might get the really obscure X-Men into a TV show, but X-Men, your main ones, they're a movie. I wonder if he's really kind of keeping some of the heroes. He knows what movies he's going to turn into a TV show. He knows what heroes he's going to turn into a movie. And I think some of his interviews in that prove that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. His first Marvel credit, I suppose, was the X-Men, and then he kind of spent the years between that and Iron Man. I think essentially like building the idea of like a shared universe, because I think I read it up today that like people, like the audiences, they're familiar with Spider-Man and the X-Men, but I don't think I certainly didn't know about Iron Man or Captain America or Thor, and I think he just basically like galvanized all these kind of characters. And that's why I think the Avengers is such an achievement, because not only is it a unique way of basically setting up origin stories for people, it's kind of all pays off in that film with this like big event. And then after that, for the next 7 years, Marvel was just like dominating everything. And not only that, but then even their rivals tried to like follow their trail.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like
it was a
DC.
massive form of emulation. Like DC just couldn't keep up.
Yeah,
They
and
just
then
couldn't do
everything,
it.
like there was, like the Conjuring films, like everything tried to follow that template, because it's one of those. It sounds easy, but with like, because it's Kevin Feige's idea, like the whole idea of the MCU and sort of galvanizing.
Well, it
everything
is and it isn't, because on the other side of it, it's obviously his brainchild, but it's not. It's comic books.
True,
Comic books have been doing it for years.
But
like, and I think he understood how to translate that into movie franchises, and that's, I think, in some ways why he's a bit chill with it, because there's elements of some of these will fail. Some of these will not be so well, but you need that character in Avengers. You need that character here. Like something like Ant-Man, for instance. That never blew audiences away, or like they were fun. They were good fun movies.
It's one of my favourite origin MCU films. Yeah.
His character then is ultimately superfluous to the plots of all the Avengers movies, but it's nice to have him in it. Because he's the comedy angle, and actually there's an element then where when you make the comedy angle serious and you give him serious lines, it adds even more depth to your movie, because then you've got everyone invested in what's going on. So he understands that. He understands the point of all of these characters, and almost regardless of then their box office, because I think he knew the box office. He knew that those like Ant-Man movies weren't going to make a load of money. Guardians probably surprised him. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies probably surprised him, just how kind of well they were well received in terms of their critical acclaim and even their box office performance. But the Avengers stuff must have just been amazing. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't think you can't. I mean, he's been involved in everything, like even down to, I mean, Spider-Man 2 for me. Raimi's Spider-Man 2 is still the best superhero movie.
Oh God. It's certainly in my top 5. Maybe my top 3.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm always curious how much involvement he has. Do you think it's surprising that he has never directed or written or even has a story credit in any of these films?
No, because I think he understands. He understands the structure. Yeah. So he knows how to secure the funding for it. He knows how to get the right people on board. All of the most successful franchises have successful directors at the back of it, or people that have been involved at storytelling. Feige's essentially shepherded that. Like, you wouldn't have Avengers without Joss Whedon's input. You know, as much as obviously all the controversies and that around Whedon. Whedon did a phenomenal thing setting up Avengers. Ultron was disappointing because he was essentially burnt out from all of the pressure that was on him to succeed then of the first Avengers. But he was one of the guiding hands in that franchise. Like, he wasn't just he's now responsible for essentially a language in cinema. You know, Whedon is that, you know, is now synonymous with superhero movies. You know, so Feige, I don't think, is ignorant to the idea that the people that he gets on board also have to understand this. You know, the Russo brothers, for instance, they had to know like what the point of Captain America was within this world in which there's like all this crazy stuff going on in space, for instance. The Russos are able to go, no, let's really get down into the nitty gritty with Winter Soldier and Civil War and stuff like that, where it's like, no, it's much more, it's more focused than this like huge universe. It's like, no, this is like government stuff and the conversation and, you know, tapping into like noir storytelling and that through the 70s and 80s and stuff. Like he's put people in the right place within that massive franchise. Like even like recognizing that Taika Waititi, what he could do with a Thor film. You know, that to me is where his skill set lies, is that like for him to jump behind a camera, he hasn't learnt that stuff. He's learnt how to shepherd this stuff. He's learnt how to do that. And I think that's where, in some respect, you mentioned at the very beginning about like respecting someone for their trade. That's where he has to be respected. In that at no point during this, or at least from our perspective as outsiders looking in, it doesn't feel like Feige's ever turned around and gone, "No, I'm doing this."
Yeah. Yeah, he's a steady hand.
Yeah.
He's a reliable captain of the ship.
And that's why that I can't, like, I mean, we've mentioned it already now, and I don't think you can talk about where the MCU is going now without seeing what Feige's like and what his like kind of control is over the franchise. When COVID happened and they were like, right, let's pivot, let's do the TV shows. It does feel like he was massively then spread thin. Like, it did feel like, oh no, yeah, you don't have a producer anymore that's like in control of everything. Every decision that goes past my desk, I have to either approve or you have to justify it to me. It's like, I can't concentrate on all of this now. Let's get all the heavy hitters of all the bigger franchises, give them creative control, and it will be fine. And then, because he doesn't have then that control over it, it just completely lost its way. It's in the same way as we've discussed this on other podcasts now, but it's like, when you look at Star Wars, if you don't have like a producer that kind of has a bit of an idea about what that through line is going to be, that is kind of anchoring it, that is the gravity kind of keeping all these sporadic stories and that going, it just completely falls apart. Like, franchises don't necessarily work with that whole random elements tacked onto it. Star Wars, for instance, is a bit like that. They don't have, like, DC was like it as well.
There was talk of Feige getting involved in Star Wars, but I think Kathleen Kennedy sort of pushed back on the idea.
Well, it's in the same way that apparently Warner Bros. Offered Feige a hell of a lot of money to jump over and do DC.
God, can you imagine if that happened?
Yeah.
I mean, James Gunn has done it. I mean, he obviously was sort of Marvel. He was probably one of the most important people there.
I was going to say, yeah, but not being funny. But I mean, do you blame him? I mean,
oh, yeah,
in essence, for him to move up that ladder and to take on that role, he'd literally have to wait for Feige to retire. Feige's not retiring anytime soon. So
well,
in theory...
that is a question. Like, how do you foresee the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see the MCU still being sort of one of the main hitters in Hollywood? Do you see Feige running the show? Because at that point, the MCU would have been going on for like 25 years. So it's like firmly has its place. And everything does eventually sort of like run its course.
Yeah.
No matter how much Feige doesn't want that to happen. But it's...
I think we'll see a handover. I think we'll see like a spreading of responsibilities. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a head of Marvel Studios TV.
What if Zack Snyder takes over?
Yeah, right.
Can you imagine? But I think Feige definitely deserves an amazing amount of respect in the sense of taking hold of something that had never really been done before.
Yeah.
Like an unprecedented level of like basically solving a puzzle in like a film series. And it's like because it was a bit of a up and down beginning. Like the phase 1 wasn't. I think in retrospect it looks really good because of where it went, but the reviews for like Iron Man 2 aren't brilliant, and the first Avenger and Thor 1. But I think from the Avengers,
I think the first Avenger and Thor 1's okay. The ones that are the first phase movies that aren't that great is definitely Iron Man 2 is not that great at all.
It's bad.
And Thor Dark World's not that great.
Well, that's considered the worst.
Yeah, it's
along
really
with
not
Iron
that
Man
great. And that, I mean, to be fair, I'm not surprised by that because there was the guy who directed Thor 2 was one of the bigger names in the Game of Thrones. So you had a TV director coming in to do a movie, and that's why like Thor 2 just kind of feels like a bit like, well, you know, it feels more episodic than anything else. It feels like it needed stuff bolted to the front of it and stuff.
It feels like there's just so much that
it didn't really know what to do because it also had to be around one of the stones, and you know, I think there's too much premise on a guy who'd literally just been given TV scripts to just go away and film previously to then take on a franchise movie like this, particularly like second in a franchise. Everything else is kind of they're good. The good spread of scores. You've got Captain America: The First Avengers is 66. which isn't too bad at all. Like you say, Thor is 57, so Thor 1 is on par with Iron Man 2. But that was a bit of a go as well. Let's get Kenneth Branagh in to do like a Shakespearean Thor movie. Why not? You know, let's dye Chris Hemsworth's eyebrows. We'll do all those things. But first Iron Man's kind of sitting on a 79. Other spreader scores not that bad. Avengers is sitting on 69, which is really good. Actually, Thor: The Dark World looks like it was potentially phase 2. Think about it.
Yes. No, I think there was a bit of an iffy beginning, and then they kind of found their feet from the Avengers to Endgame. And that's
I think for me, it's Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is the point. I mean, Avengers, I love the first Avengers movie, but from Winter Soldier onwards is when you get some serious heavy hitters. So you have Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron is okay. You've got Ant-Man come out as well. Then Civil War, Doctor Strange, both sitting very, very strong scores. Spider-Man, Thor Ragnarok, then Black Panther, Infinity War. It keeps kind of building.
But that's what I mean. He deserves credit for. It just kept like the tension and the stakes just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these films, like it would be a weird thing to explain to like younger people in like 10 years, but these films were like enormous. Like Endgame made like $1 billion over its first weekend.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Endgame was just insane. Like the amount of money that took, considering that like this isn't like Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which has literally had decades to build. Endgame is like 12 years since Iron Man 1. Like that's insane. Like in 12 years,
there's like a 16-year gap between like Ben Affleck's Daredevil and this becoming like this cinematic sort of achievement of the decade.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's absolutely insane.
And he as you say, he kind of like found the right pieces to.
He got the right people involved. He got the right people that kind of got it. He moved all the right pieces around the board. The one, if you look back at kind of all the movies, I really wish we'd have seen an Edgar Wright Ant-Man.
Yes, that's like well. I mean, we can go into it, but I suppose another criticism of the MCU is that it feels like committee filmmaking. But
it's
then
very rigid.
But that's kind of, I quite like that in a way. It keeps everything like consistent and flowing well.
Yeah.
I think because that's like with James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy, they're in like a completely different galaxy, obviously.
Obviously.
So you can really play around and go a bit crazy with that because you're not really risking too much with like those characters at the time, obviously. Because I had absolutely no idea. I thought, what? There's like Marvel stuff in space on planets. Well, there are blue people.
I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it now since you've said it. Committee filmmaking. I'm not sure if it is committee filmmaking.
No, well, it's a criticism that there's not a lot. There's not like a vision from like a specific filmmaker.
Oh, I see what you mean. There's just lots of different visions.
Kind of like this is the through line.
That's where Infinity War and Endgame was so fascinating. Because genuinely, I think I went in there with the same thing. Like, how are you going to get these things to merge?
Yeah.
In the same way as how do you get unfortunately, for all it's worth, like that's why Batman vs Superman didn't work. Yeah. Because it was like, how do you get these two worlds to merge? And you just kind of don't. Like, or what the criticism of those movies is, well, Superman's just a really dark movie now, like for someone who's supposed to be really light-hearted. But across the river, you've got like a murdering Batman just going off out of nowhere, and you're like, well, why hasn't that guy just flown over there and punched that guy into the stratosphere? Like.
Well, I think with the DCEU, it was really pathetic in the sense of how much they tried to rush. Those films just felt like we are so embarrassed that we didn't think of doing this kind of thing earlier that now we are now rushing to keep up with the MCU.
I mean, to jump into, what was it? It was basically like 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden there was a Justice League movie. And what?
And you're just like, I mean, like Superman versus Batman. That kind of thing should have been fleshed out so much more.
Yeah.
But, hey-ho.
Hey-ho.
But, I mean, that's why, again, Feige probably deserves the credit he gets.
Do you think he will go back to the same highs? Do you reckon the MCU will get back to where it was before?
No, we're in a different era.
Yeah. I still think it will earn a lot of money.
I think it will always have its place now in cinema culture.
Yeah.
Because... particularly with like younger generations.
Yeah.
But I do think a breather is necessary, but they're just never they won't stop. until money starts to like fall away, and it's very difficult for Hollywood and the studios because. Oh, is that me? Sorry. It's very difficult for Hollywood and the studios because it's just like once the money rolls in, you can't have it stop.
Yeah.
So, but it's fascinating. I'm excited to see Fantastic Four and see the 15th Pedro Pascal film to come out in 2025.
So before we wrap up, then that's going to be my final question to you.
Please.
Fantastic Four. This is what ultimately has inspired us to talk about Kevin Feige.
Yes.
Do you think he'll be able to helm a Fantastic Four movie? After having already had something to do with previous ones.
I think again based on his record as running the show, I think he will find a way to make it work. I mean, is there any sort of like major character that has been like a fundamental flop in like the MCU? That's like a recognized big character.
Eternals.
So this is where I struggle because I don't really know that much about.
No, but I suppose in the grand scheme
outside
of
of
things,
the main superheroes.
No. I think Thor, Love and Thunder. Thor's had a couple of really random ones where it's a bit like, meh.
Because Fantastic Four,
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania was awful. Like, was really, really bad.
Yeah. Fantastic Four. I mean,
Marvels.
There's been three major Fantastic Four films, and they have all had very bad reviews. Although I did enjoy the first two.
The Ewan Griffith one, and I love
Jessica
those movies. Yeah, I have a soft spot for those Fantastic Four. They're so campy and fun that it's like, well, yeah, like,
they were just the Sam.
They're just fun.
Yeah, they followed kind of. They were like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, just not as engaging.
Yeah.
But they were fine.
They were absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Like, I think people look back on that sometimes with a bit of vitriol.
I've never seen the Fantastic Four film that came out 10 years ago, which was essentially like Fox just making.
Oh no, that is one of the worst movies ever made. I did watch that, and I remember I actually got a review out for that, and I got a review out for it really early. It was one of my most successful reviews.
Yeah,
and I absolutely trashed it. It was so bad, but I felt really weird because I was working on the review really early, and there was no other reviews out yet, and I was like really nervous. This is one of the ones where I was like, oh, I'm actually gonna write this and get this out there, and it's before release date, like anything could happen, you know. And I remember writing it down and thinking, I could get this horribly wrong because I hated this. Like, it was a really, really bad movie.
Yeah.
And as I started kind of working out all of my reasons as for why and getting it all down on paper, there was a real like anxiety. I posted it and I was like, oh, I don't know how people were going to feel about this. And then luckily the next morning, it was kind of like, vindication! Because all the reviews came out for it. It is a really bad movie. Structurally, the villain angle, the villain arc, tonally, it's everywhere. I feel sorry for the guy. I can't remember the guy who directed it.
Josh
Trank. He did Chronicle beforehand. Chronicle was a phenomenal movie. And I wonder if there's elements of like that's where the tonal thing is just going all over the place. It just did not work.
Well, I've read up certain parts, and Josh Trank wanted to make something quite Cronenbergian. He wanted to make
like the body horror stuff. Well, I mean, as like you would, right? Like you've got someone who can turn invisible, one who his skin is rock, another guy who can turn on fire, and another guy who can stretch.
I do always remember the scene where the Thing, is that his name? Mm-hmm. Rockman, The Rock. Why has The Rock never been cast as the Thing?
Rock's too big.
Oh, okay. And I just always remember his fiance just like dropping the ring by the bridge, and he can't pick it up because he's got rock hands. And I was like, this is brutal.
I don't know. All those little elements, those original movies, are so much fun, and compared to the 2014 one, which took itself way too seriously.
But do you think that the Fantastic Four, the first steps, which I think is quite funny because this is like the 47th film in the MCU, do you think it will be a success? Do you think it will? Because this is Phase 5 now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, possibly. I'm not quite sure actually, but I think that the idea is that they've said this is now starting off the next step. So this is heading towards Secret Wars, which I think is going to have like the X-Men and all of that lot in it. So there's going to be quite a lot going on.
Doomsday, I know, has got 40 people in it.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I mean. Yeah. But that's what I mean. He that's very ambitious. It's like the biggest
huge
ensemble cast.
It's
in
almost
the history
like,
of cinema.
we couldn't quite work out what we're going to do on a mini scale, so we're just going to go huge again.
Yeah, and the Russo brothers need a break because everything outside the MCU is like the biggest
They just are
crap.
failing miserably. Yeah. The Grey Man. Oh dear. That was Netflix giving someone a lot of money.
Well, my final question before we wrap up, do you think Feige will do anything outside of a superhero film? Because I looked it up.
I don't think he needs to.
And his last film that didn't involve a superhero was made in the last millennium.
Nice. I don't think he needs to. I don't think he's really got to worry about it. He's made his impacts on cinema.
Yeah,
He doesn't have to do anything. He's firmly a producer. And so because of that, I think he should just stick to his guns.
We'll wrap up there. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Deep Dive 5. We want to hear your opinions on the career of Kevin Feige or Feige. What would you rank as his career highlight? If you would like to get more out of the Real Project, you can find us on Spotify. Goodbye and see you soon.
See ya.